Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about hunting. We're going to be talking about how to get those 3-star pelts, what weapons you need to use, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier. Let's get into it. I continue to have an increasing number of comments on my moose and panther videos, and understandably so, because they're two of the hardest spawns in the game for people. And what I really love about this community is how helpful everybody is, because the truth is I can't cover everything in a video. There's just not enough time. I can't cover all the locations. I can't cover all the guns to use. I can't go through every single thing that will work. And so I love it when someone's struggling in the comments and they're like, look, I'm trying this stuff in the video and I just can't get it to work. And before I can even comment, inevitably someone else has jumped in and been like, hey, I was struggling to try this location, try this method. That really worked for me when some of these other locations didn't. And I just think it's so great that we're just willing to share knowledge in the community and help people out that are new or help people out that are struggling. One thing I have noticed lately, though, is that I have gotten an increasing number of comments that are talking about how you need to do it this way. You need to go here. This is the best location. Or why didn't you use this gun? This is the best gun. This is the only gun that you can use. And I want to be really careful about those comments because they can be really off-putting to somebody who's struggling, who's like, oh, I tried that and it didn't work for me. So I guess this game is just broken or isn't working for me for some reason. Because the truth is, and we're going to go over in a minute how to see like what guns Rockstar says to use for the clean kill. But even though they tell you what gun to use, there's some variations in there. You don't need to use a specific type necessarily, and there are other types of weapons or methods you could use as well to preserve that 3-star pelt quality. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a you have to do this or you have to go there or you have to use this specific method, because I think people forget that we're all gamers, but we're all of different skill level. And while you might be comfortable taking a shot through a scope without any lock on, maybe somebody needs the lock on and they feel more comfortable with that to be able to get the headshot. So we just want to make sure this is as accessible as possible for people and give lots of different locations and methods so that they can be successful. To start off, there are 3 different pelt qualities in the game. So all animals start as either a 1-star, which is considered poor, a 2-star, which is considered good, or a 3-star, which is considered perfect. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you're trying to do things like craft satchels at the beginning of the game, craft outfits, or craft saddles, you need to have perfect quality pelts in order to do that. Now in story mode, the first time you come across an animal, you won't be able to see the star quality or the pelt quality until you study that animal. Then once you've studied the animal, every time you come to that specific animal again in the wild, you'll be able to see the star quality, and the star quality tells you the pelt quality. And the way you can do that is you can look through binoculars, which is the easiest way in my opinion when you're studying a lot of animals, because you can keep your distance a little bit more and they don't spook, so you don't have to chase after them. Or you can also study it through your gun, or a scoped weapon as well. And then again, once you've studied the animal, you can see just by using L2 to look at the animal, if you're close enough, through a gun, through binoculars, you'll be able to see it'll show up on the right hand side. It'll show 1-star, 2-star, or 3 stars. And that's how you know which quality animal. Now, if you are just hunting for camp or to get provisions, then it doesn't matter what the star quality level is. Obviously, the higher pelt qualities will yield more materials. But if you are trying to get those perfect pelts, you do need to make sure it is a 3-star animal. That's the first step. Now, before we talk about what guns to use, let's talk about the buck antler trinket. I'm going to recommend you get this as soon as possible. There's a little bit of debate about what exactly it does, but the description is basically that it just increases your chances for perfect pelts. And there's 2 ways we think this does that. One, if you start with a 3-star pelt or quality animal and you don't get the perfect headshot, it will increase your chances that it remains a 3-star. So that's number 1. And then the second thing is thought is that if you do get a perfect shot on like a 2-star animal, that there's the potential when you skin it that it'll become a 3-star or a perfect pelt. So again, there's a little bit of debate on exactly what it does, but at the end of the day, it's going to increase your chances for those perfect pelts, so it doesn't hurt to have it. I'm going to link a video in the description below that goes through all the details on how to get the buck antler trinket. I'm not going to go over it in this video today, so make sure you check that out if you're not sure exactly how to get it. Now let's talk about the types of weapons that you need to use to preserve the 3-star pelt quality. So the first bit of information we get is after studying an animal, you can look at that information and it'll tell you, use a blank for the clean kill. And that's going to be something like use a small game arrow or use a varmint rifle or a repeater or a rifle. And that's going to give you a starting place for knowing what the best weapon is to use for that animal so that if it is a 3-star, it doesn't drop pelt quality. The next thing is you have to get the clean shot. That basically means you need to get a 1-shot headshot kill. If you do a body shot, it's going to drop the pelt quality down. If you don't kill it on the first shot, again, it's probably going to drop the pelt quality down. Now, if you shoot an animal and it drops down injured, it might still keep the pelt quality, in which case you can walk up to it and do a mercy kill, and that will also not drop the pelt quality. So you'll be able to keep whatever it was, whether it started as a 3, started as a 2. If it starts as a 1, that's the lowest it can go anyway. When it comes to these weapons, the first one, we'll start with the smallest. So things like squirrels, chipmunks, frogs, rats, small birds. It's going to say to use a small game arrow, and for the most part, you want to stick with that. You can sometimes get away with using a varmint rifle, especially if you have that buck antler trinket. It'll kick in and it'll still preserve the 3-star, but most of the time, if it says small game arrow, you can't really use anything else, or it's going to drop that pelt quality down. Next up is the varmint rifle. Again, for those animals, you're going to pretty much want to stick with the varmint rifle, and that's going to be things like your bunnies, skunks, turkeys, raccoons, so that type of animal, badgers, possums. So that size there is pretty much exclusively going to be use a varmint rifle. Next, you get into something like coyotes, and coyotes is one of the few that is going to say use a repeater for the clean kill, and you can certainly use a repeater. That will preserve the pelt quality, but you can actually also just use a rifle or a bow and arrow for them, and that's also going to preserve the pelt quality. So at the beginning of the story, when you don't have a lot of money and you have to purchase your weapons, you get a bow in chapter 1, so that's fantastic. The next one I would recommend to purchase would be a varmint rifle, because those are definitely the 2 that you'll need for sure. And you can pretty much get away for the first part of it with just hunting with those 2 and preserving the pelt qualities, as long as you get pamphlets for the different types of arrows. And we'll talk about pamphlets in a little bit as well. After that, I would recommend getting a good rifle, and that's going to be pretty much the remainder of your animals. So deer, pronghorn, wolves, even your larger animals like bears, moose, elk, they all take a rifle, and there's several different options for rifles. So let's go through all those rifle options right now. So for your rifles, you have 2 main options that are going to allow for the lock-on if you're not using the scope, and that is going to be the Springfield rifle and the bolt action rifle. Both has some advantages to using them. For example, the Springfield rifle is a 1-shot rifle. So if you're using paint it black to paint the head, which is great to do in story mode, because in story mode, Deadeye slows time down, so it's really easy to get the headshot using paint it black. The Springfield rifle makes it so that you can't paint more than 1 bullet because it's a single shot, which is really great if you have a moving target like a deer that's jumping or a pronghorn that's jumping. You can't accidentally mark it twice, which will ruin the pelt quality if you shoot it twice. So the Springfield can be really great for that. If you're finding that you're putting more than 1 mark on it and you're ruining pelts that way, check out the Springfield rifle. But the bolt action can be really great if you're needing to try to kill multiples at a time. So you've got a group of deer running, a group of pronghorn, and you're trying to get more than 1. You have 5 shots in that gun. So that can be a little bit more advantageous to use that one over the Springfield, which you have to reload each time. After that, you have your 2 scoped sniper rifles, which is going to be your rolling block rifle and your Carcano rifle. Now, these 2 are going to be free aim only because you're looking through a scope. So you can't lock on, you're not going to be using, it's not going to auto lock on to the animal. So you want to be confident in your shots. And some advantages of those are you can stay a little bit further back. And they also work really well on those really big animals. So against elk And against moose, you can sometimes have trouble with the regular rifles getting the perfect headshot to knock them. And so the sniper rifles are a little bit more powerful, and it will work a little bit better against those really big animals. So again, advantages of that, you can kind of stay back. You don't have to get so close. The animal's standing still. So it's easy to just aim right onto the head because they're not moving, and you can really quickly and easily get that clean headshot. Now, what some people don't realize is if it says that you need to use a repeater or a rifle for the clean shot, you can also use a bow and arrow for those animals, and it'll work just the same way. It's going to preserve that pelt quality. You can use a regular arrow. You can use an improved arrow, which I definitely recommend for the larger animals, and that's found in story only, so they're not online. And also another one I recommend is the poison arrow. If you find you're struggling with some of the big cats, like the panthers, the cougars, getting them to drop, then I would recommend trying a poison arrow because of the movement of the cats. Sometimes you'll get the headshot, but it'll be just off to where the panther or cougar doesn't die. And if you use a bullet or a regular arrow, then you would have to shoot it again, and that will definitely drop the pelt quality down. But if you use a poison arrow, the poison actually will act and it will cause them to fall, and you can use mercy kill to preserve the pelt quality. It's actually awful. Like, I hate hunting in this game and the sounds are way too realistic, but it works. So if you're an avid hunter and that's something you like doing in the game, a poison arrow might be the way to go because you can be a little bit off in your shot and still retain that pelt quality with a poison arrow. Another method that you can use to preserve the star quality or the pelt quality is going to be the lasso trick. So for any of the larger animals that are not predators, so it does not work against predators and it doesn't work with smaller animals, but it'll work with things like deer, pronghorn, rams, cows, sheep, moose, elk, any of those type of animals, you can actually lasso. And when you get close enough to the animal, it'll give you a prompt to kill. I believe it's circle on PlayStation. And it will never drop the pelt quality down if you do that. So if it's a 3-star and you lasso it and you get the kill, it's going to remain a 3-star. There's no way to mess that up. That could be really great if you're struggling with your shots. You're missing just slightly. You're not able to get the headshot and you're getting frustrated because you can't get those 3-star animals. The lasso trick will work very well. Now, some things you want to keep in mind, though, is that it does require stamina. So if you have very low stamina, you haven't built that up yet, and you're too far away when you lasso, the animal can break free. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Plus, you have to run after the animal, and you have to catch up to it in order to lasso it. So that's something else. You have to be aware of the area that you're in. But again, it could just be another method that you can have if you find yourself struggling to get the shot, the animal's running around, pull out that lasso, give that a try. Now, I've given a bunch of tips along the way, but let's go over a few more. One thing that you can do is use the cover scent lotion. Now, if you use one that's opened, it's not going to last that long, but if you use a regular one, it'll last a good amount of time. This can just help you to get a little bit closer to animals if you're having trouble studying them. So throw that on. And then, crouch down, walk slowly so you can get a little bit closer, especially at first when you are trying to study a bunch of different animals. This can be very useful. There is the Kamasa River up north, south of Brandywine is a great place if you're trying to study those small birds because they land on rocks a lot up there. So make sure you use that cover scent lotion, move slowly, and that's going to help you to be able to study those animals. Next, and you'll see in this clip here that I'm showing, is that I came upon a moose. I wasn't expecting it because, moose don't spawn super frequently. But lo and behold, I went up north to Brandywine and there was a moose. And so I startled it before I was able to kind of look at it and pull out my, Carcano or rolling block. And it ran and it got into the water. So something else to keep in mind is if you do kill a large animal and it lands in water, sometimes you can lasso them and pull them out. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it's worth giving it a try. I went ahead and tried it here. I went ahead and just got the shot. I was going to lasso and I was going to show you here how to do the lasso and the kill trick. But I was having trouble. The water was running. My horse couldn't keep up, and I was worried it was going to kind of get away and get back out onto land. And so I was able to lasso it and pull it up onto land so that I could skin it after that. So that's another just quick tip if you didn't know that you could lasso animals that were in the water. Another tip I can give is just to kind of pay attention to where certain animals are spawning. Moose, for example, are a pretty tough spawn. There's, not too many locations that you're going to just ride through normally when you're playing. You kind of have to go out of your way a little bit to find them. And so when you have an animal like that spawn, just take note of where it is, put a marker on the map, or just make note of it somewhere so that you can go back to it, because once you know an animal spawns there, it's going to be a really good spawn for you probably. There's also such a thing as static spawns, so get to know where those are when you see the same animal spawning in the same locations. An example of this would be the Gila monster that spawns near the airplane outside Armadillo in New Austin. That's a static spawn. Now, static spawns don't mean 100% guarantee spawn. It doesn't mean every time you go there, the animal's going to be there. But generally speaking, it's going to spawn in the same spot every single time. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind as well, to kind of just be paying attention as you're hunting and roaming around, where certain animals are spawning. If you always see a badger spawn in this location, that's going to be a good spot to go back and check if you need that particular animal. Another tip I can give is just to be patient with yourself. Spawns are not perfect. They're not going to happen every time. And it's easy to get frustrated when you're trying to accomplish something and you're trying to find something right now and it's not happening. Some tips I give in other videos too are things like, hey, set up camp around there, sleep a few in-game days, load your game in there, ride away and come back. All of those things kind of help the game a little bit to spawn in what you're looking for. The more time you spend in an area, the more likely you're going to come across these things. So, if you're trying, for example, to find a moose, check out a location that is a moose spawn and just spend a little bit of time there, but don't spend hours there. Just spend 10 minutes, ride around, set up camp, ride away, come back, maybe set up camp, do a save file, and then load the game back in. Just do a few things to see if you can get that animal to spawn in. If it doesn't, try another location. Or, the next time you play, try some different locations. And just keep in mind, it will happen. It's easy to get frustrated when you're like, I want it right now. And so you just want to keep that in mind that, sometimes it's not going to happen right away or be perfect. For example, I had a playthrough where I, for the life of me, could not get a 3-star badger. And I know this game backward and forward. I know where they spawn, but it wouldn't spawn a 3-star. So, it's going to happen in the game. And so you just want to have a little bit of grace with yourself, a little bit of patience to not get too frustrated. Finally, and I sort of mentioned it there in the last thing that I was talking about, and I should have talked about this earlier, but it is random what star quality animal you get when it spawns in. So for example, if you're going for a specific animal like a panther or a moose, every time it spawns in at that location, it is random whether you get a 1-star, a 2-star, or a 3-star. And so my best advice is to, if you get a lower star quality, so if you're looking for that 3-star and it is a 1 or 2-star, don't kill it. If you kill it, you have to wait time before it will spawn in again. It's not like deer. You're just going to constantly come across deer on the map, and it doesn't matter how many you kill. You're just going to always run into deer. Moose and panther are a little bit different because really only one spawns in that location at a time. And so what you're going to want to do is don't kill it, and you're going to want to ride away, come back, try again, or set up camp, sleep a few in-game days, come back, try again, because the next time you get it to spawn in, it should be hopefully a different star level. Now, I did, for this video, was kind of hunting a little bit. I came across a panther. It was a 1-star. I rode away. I set up camp. I slept. I came back, and a panther did not spawn. So again, spawns are not perfect. They're not guaranteed, and it is random what star level you get. So you just have to play around with a little bit, and you kind of have to find out what works best for you. Just a quick note on arrow pamphlets, or really any pamphlets you find. You have to make sure you read it before you have access to that item. So I believe small game arrows and improved arrows, you will receive the pamphlet at the beginning of chapter 2 in story, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you go into your satchel, look for those pamphlets, and you want to make sure you read it. And then once you read it, you'll be able to craft it. All arrows that are special arrows are going to require flight feathers and then some other item, depending on what that might be. It'll tell you in the recipe. Now, I think for the poison arrow, you have to go find that. It might be available to purchase later in the story if you've missed it, but I think it's in a lockbox near the mysterious hill home, so that's something you'll have to look up. But for example, that's going to take an arrow, a flight feather, and oleander sage to make that. So sage is, you know, a poison plant, so that makes sense that you would need that to make the poison arrow. So just keep in mind, read the pamphlet, then you can read to see what it takes in order to create that specific item. I hoped this video was able to give you some more information about hunting to make it easier for you to get those 3-star pelts. Some of the most important things, just to recap, I would say is make sure you get the buck antler trinket, make sure you study the animal, make sure you start with 3-star quality animals to begin with. Make sure you're using the correct types of weapons, whether that is a small game arrow, a varmint rifle, or if it's for an animal that says repeater, you can use a rifle or a bow in addition to the repeater. Or for animals that say rifle, you can use a rifle or a bow, or the lasso trick if it's not a predator. So those are the type of weapons you want to start with. So just keep that in mind. You want to get the perfect shot. So if you're using a gun, you want to get the one-shot headshot. If you're using something like a poison arrow and the animal goes down, you could potentially preserve that pelt quality by using a mercy kill that will not drop the pelt quality. So these are all just a few things to try if you're getting frustrated, you're not able to get the one-shot headshot to preserve that pelt quality. Utilize things like Deadeye, you know, mark the head early in the story. It's going to auto mark, so you're going to have to aim right for the head as it auto marks. Later in the story, you'll be able to manually mark, which makes it a little bit easier. You know, staying back away from the animals and looking through a scope can help because the animal's not moving, so that might be an easier way for you to get that headshot. So play around with it, find out what works for you. You know, figure out where the spawns are. You can watch different videos or use the Gene Ropke map, which will show where different animals spawn. I'll link that in the description below as well. And yeah, just go out there, have fun, learn as you go. Know that sometimes you're going to drop the pelt quality down, and that's perfectly okay. You can just move on to the next one and keep going. Have some patience with yourself. So again, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave it a like. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.